Can I then go to Taipan? I'm aware it's a done argument in terms of whether or not they're going to be donated, but what is the status of the fleet at the moment?
Senator, while General King comes to the table, just give you quickly recap. There were no user nations that were interested in whole aircraft.
Conscious of all of that?
Happy with all of that?
Yep, okay. Yep, good with all of that. I'm just interested to understand what is the status of the fleet at the moment. The last I was aware was that those that had been stripped and were at Amberley had been removed from Amberley ahead of an open day, but nobody could tell me whether that was for final disposal. And the last I've seen in Townsville, there was a number of aircraft, some substantially stripped, some partly stripped. I'm just interested to know what's the status, and in terms of the cost to the taxpayer of the whole disposal process. I understand you're selling parts, but what's the net cost to taxpayer of this disposal process, including the burial?
Good afternoon, Senator. Major General Jeremy King, Head Joint Aviation Systems Division. In terms of the status of the airframes for MRH-90, we started with 47 airframes. Of those, 28 have been destroyed in recent months. We have 2 aircraft that are being sold back to NHI. We have 2 going to the Army Aviation Museum in Oakey. We have one that was involved in the accident that remains under investigation. And we have a further 14 that remain in Townsville and will be destroyed before the end of this year. Mm-hmm. In terms of parts,
when you say destroyed, that's the cut up and buried type process.
No, so they are certainly being cut up, and the vast majority of the materials are either being recycled, which is the intent to recycle as much as possible. Mm-hmm. That's mainly the ferrous and non-ferrous metals. Mm-hmm. Obviously, heavy composites, and so basically to make sure that the company that won the tender to deal with that in an environmentally friendly way. So that's for them to decide, but no aircraft have been buried whole.
Okay. And the net cost?
Pardon?
The net cost?
So in terms of the disposal, it's yet to be finished. Obviously we've got some aircraft to be done still, but it will be in the ones of millions in terms of that disposal. In terms of the sale of parts, reluctant to declare that far in excess of the costs of the disposal by at least an order of magnitude. In part because there's a dispute occurring currently between Norway and the aircraft manufacturer at the moment, and so we're reluctant to release those figures because the cost of those parts is a matter for the Norwegian courts at the moment. So I do note ANO will audit this process at some point, so it will become a matter of public record. But in terms of the sale of those parts, well in excess of the price of the cost of the disposal. On top of that, about more than $140 million that was saved by not going forward with the sustainment contract into 2024 and stopping the contract at the end of 2023.
Sure. Okay.
Sorry. And you think you're after the status of parts as well, or not?
No, I was just really looking to see where we're at with that process. I'm not going to pursue it. I'm still deeply disappointed we went down this path, but I will leave that there. I think I'm well and truly on the record with my view on that. I will come to Tiger in a second, so don't leave, General King. But General Stewart, last estimates, I was hoping to ask you a question, but you weren't here. I can't remember where you were at the time. And I asked your deputy, who wasn't able to provide an answer. But after the accident in the Whitsundays, when the opposition received a briefing, I did ask, in the gap between the incident or the accident and any formal reporting out of both the safety organisations or the Inspector General, what was Army looking to do internally to look at lessons learned? How could you make sure you were governing all of your aviation assets to the best extent possible? And I was wanting to know whether there had been any internal review commissioned by you, whether that's within Army or external people, in response to that.
Yeah, thanks, Senator. As you're aware, there are 4 separate inquiries and investigations, including the air safety investigation being conducted by the DFSB. There's the IGADF inquiry, which is in stride. There's an active Comcare investigation and the Queensland coronial inquiry. So those are in stride now.
Correct.
In terms of what we, and obviously we will take the findings and recommendations from each of those and ingest those into the system. In terms of what have we done, what has Army done while those things are occurring, there are a number which I can go through with you now. Just let me find the right spot. So the Commander of Aviation Command has implemented a series of enhanced control measures while the aviation safety investigation is in progress. Established a safety campaign plan to provide an additional layer of assurance and assist in the management and response to incidents, in conjunction with revising the past reports from other rotary wing incidents and accidents, both Navy and Army, and to make sure that we've effectively done a check to make sure that previous recommendations have been or are evident in our system. We've established the International Combat Aviation Safety Summit that brings together our closest allies and partners. The first of those was held last year here in Canberra, and that was really to make sure that from a combat military rotary wing perspective, we're able to learn from the experience of other partners and share our learnings as well, to try and lift all boats, if that makes sense. That was attended by United States Army, United States Marine Corps, the British Joint Aviation Command, the Royal Canadian Air Force and the New Zealand Defence Force as well. And I've also commissioned an independent benchmark review of Army aviation against peer international organisations to basically look at relative strengths and weaknesses and where the opportunities are. So I'm still awaiting the outcome of that report. So they're the main things that we've commissioned and have either done or are in stride in Army, separate to the 4 formal inquiries and investigations that are underway.
So one observation, then one question. Okay, after the Black Hawk incident in 1996, there was a recommendation there for cross-standardisation with other Special Forces rotary wing operators, which I think lasted one posting cycle due to budget cuts, funding constraints, etc., etc. I would encourage Defence writ large to make sure that these kind of measures actually survive, because I think they're very valuable. Second question, the benchmarking report you referred, was that internal within Army, or did you get people independent of Army to do that?
So no, the reviewers are independent to Army.
Okay, and where is that at the moment? Have you received a draft or a final report of that?
I have not. I believe Commander of Aviation Command may have the draft, but as you'd appreciate, Senator, there's a range of other more pressing requirements at the moment. There's an IGADF hearing block in stride at the moment, and obviously working with the DEF AA as the DFSB report comes to the sort of concluding months of its work.
Sure. So if that report is a deep dive, if you like, into a gap analysis, benchmarking, whatever you want to call it, will that also be provided to Chief of Air Forces, the Airworthiness Authority, and will it be provided, or at least its existence flagged, to IGADF that they can peruse it to the extent they wish as part of their investigation?
The answer to both is yes. Obviously, the IGADF has the Section 23 available to it for that information, which is well practiced in the case of this current inquiry, and we have a very close relationship with the DEF AA on all of those, any of those sorts of benchmarking activities and the normal day-to-day application of the Defence Aviation Safety Framework.
Sure. So final question on that is, I'm happy to take it on notice, but if you could let us know when you commissioned that, when the draft was received and when you expect to get the final report, that would be useful to know.